Hello, everybody. Welcome back to today's episode of the podcast, where we sit down with some of the sharpest minds in the management consulting industry. This episode is powered by Clubhouse AI. At Clubhouse AI, we help management consulting firms break free from outdated lead gen methods like networking events and referrals, which often feel more like wishful thinking than a real strategy. Our battle tested data-driven client acquisition system brings in your ideal clients with no chasing, no guesswork, just predictable compounding growth. If you're in the management consulting industry and you're looking to scale your business and see results within the first week, DM us the word growth for a free consultation. And now, without further ado, let's jump right into today's podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Doug Longenecker, CEO of Next. Thank you so much for being on today. Why don't you go ahead and give me a little introduction of who you are and tell me a little about your story?
Hey, Ethan. First of all, thank you for inviting me and having me on your podcast today. I've been looking forward to it all day and prepping for it, but happy to be here. And just in terms of a little background about myself from career standpoint, I feel like I have two different careers in a way, and I think that's probably more common than it used to be. And actually, I'm probably going to have a third career, maybe it's at some point, who knows? But um, started out primarily in the ad agency side of advertising. Actually, started in cable, got into a local TV station. Was local. It was owned and operated by CBS in Philadelphia, so Channel 10. And then I migrated. Finally, got into an ad agency in Philly, and just had a ball. It was everything I expected it to be. I was very fortunate. I didn't realize how fortunate I was in terms of the culture and the environment that the two owners had cultivated in their first 10 years of their business. And luckily had a really fantastic first boss who was willing to take me aside and kind of just teach me and as much as I could absorb. And that led to, I guess, to me looking to move on beyond that agency in Philadelphia and moved to New York and was able to trade my the account that I was working on in Philadelphia was Midas Muffler and Brakes. So it's automotive and franchisee kind of dealership based businesses. Traded the automotive aftermarket for the automobile manufacturing market. So got in with Shy Day to work on Nissan Infiniti, which was a really cool adventure because they had what was termed at the time a virtual office. There was no office, dedicated office space. You'd come in, it was like an academic model. You'd come in the morning, you had a locker to put your coat and everything in. You'd get a cell phone and you'd get a laptop, and you could just find a spot wherever you wanted to in the agency. So that was just a really cool entree into New York and New York advertising. And then as most people do, they kind of move around. So I got to Ogilvy and Mather to work on IBM software, and then at Havas, working on Philips Electronics and Universal Studios. So it was a really fun time. But like most things in life and professionally, either you burn out or get tired of it or outgrow it. And I was looking for something different from the advertising agencies, and I found myself with an opportunity to work in a strategic marketing and brand consultancy. And I just that was really new to me in the I guess the biggest way I can explain it, it was different in that not of all of our solutions were going to end in some sort of creative output like an app or a website or a digital banner campaign or SEO. We were working further upstream with not just a CMO, but the executive leadership teams of companies and understanding like some of the I won't say the bigger, but different, more, I guess, broader scope challenges that they're having as an organization and helping them solve that. Sometimes through marketing and brand, but sometimes it was also more around customer experience or employee experience or even process of an internal in-house agency and some challenges that they were having with stakeholders, and it was creating a negative spin internally. So that feels like a long way here, but it was those are the two sides of my career, but they led me to start Next, and that is kind of combining the two strategic consultancy with like the creative agency. So we go from like to consider it as business to brand, so to speak, and we're business to brand partners, helping companies really start to make connections across four or five levers of growth, depending how you look at it. But the first one will be AI and data. The second would be customer experience, as well as employee experience. The third one is brand positioning, brand credibility. And the last one is from a PR's perspective, but specifically in a niche of executive thought leadership. And looking at those four levers, um, we can look at them and help companies on a one-to-one basis, um, plug and play that way. But it's probably the biggest value is working kind of end to end through that whole continuum, and layering it in, the business objectives that the company and organization is trying to get through. So again, it's not just creative; it's getting those four levers moving in the right direction, coordinated, integrated, so that they have a chance to really see positive business outcomes, not just outputs or creative outputs from an agency.
Right. You got me sold. I want to invest.
Yeah.
But that sounds
Well, we
amazing.
can we can talk a little bit later after the interview.
Right, right. I'll throw something at you. Yeah, that sounds amazing. It's definitely a roller coaster career. What it sounds like working at Universal and working all these in New York as well, and working with all these different companies and having a roller coaster career path like most people actually. But yeah, awesome. As someone who's in AI myself, you said that you deliver AI to your clients. What does that look like for you?
That's a great question. It comes in a lot of different forms, and actually, we started um, working with it primarily just with Gen AI from a creative standpoint. And as we were doing those kind of early explorations, we were finding different ways. Like I love using it for feasibility studies, for some deep research, um, and also some initial positioning work or copy work. Um, but we've also then, as that exploration went pretty well, then we were starting to see kind of bigger implications, and then we're starting to see agentic AI starting to pop up, and we were
Mm,
like, "Wow, this is really going someplace." There's a lot of hype, but we were understanding some of the realities of it, and at this stage, it was funny too because a lot of clients were like, "Oh, what are you doing with AI?" And there was a weird kind of pendulum swing. No one wanted AI to do it. To, our clients didn't want us to do anything with AI. Then all of a sudden, it was kind of specced in like, on RFP, like, "How are you using AI on creative?" And then it's kind of swung back a little bit, just because organizations were starting to understand the privacy issues of data and information. So if we're very careful, but from their legal teams, on their side, it was like, well, we need to be very careful with what we're doing with that. So it's somewhere in the middle right now. But this summer, we spent a lot of time developing an intro to AI for business workshop, and we've probably delivered about 45 to 50 of those starting in, I guess it was June, and we're just going to wrap up that kind of initiative at the end of this month. So it's
awesome.
been really interesting getting a lot of feedback and understanding where companies and organizations are, with
Right.
their approach and adoption and implementation of AI.
Right. Yeah, you got to adapt to what's going on in the market and sell what needs to be sold right now, what people are buying up. And yeah, I love that the end there. You said you're selling like a package of like a 101 how to use AI for business owners. That's awesome. It's definitely something that a lot of people need that they don't have. That's not something you can go around and find on YouTube as easily as you'd like. Yeah, that's amazing that you're offering that. Now we kind of covered what you do and who you are, your story. How do you fit into the bigger picture of the company? What's your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, that's a really, for me, it's like a loaded question, because any given day is going to be different, and any given day is going to go sideways. So it's full of it starts out with a sheet full of to-dos and meetings and things like that, and it runs the gamut from, man, client meetings, internal meetings, um, some back office stuff with projections and billing and, um, reviewing SOWs, reviewing contracts, looking at client strategic or creative work before it goes out, and just a host of other back office issues. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but like you, I'm a podcaster. So um, there's podcast prep, there's podcast interviews that occur again on at least on a monthly basis. So it keeps it fresh, it keeps it exciting, and there's always something that pops up that you didn't expect.
Right, yes, that's the day in the life of a business owner or an executive right there. Always doing something new the next day, or even if at early stage entrepreneur and business owner as well, you're kind of jack of all trades, doing every single task and kind of have your foot in every avenue there. But sounds like a fun day at work though.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of strange in some ways where I feel like the employment market really shifted to specialists in specific areas, and you've got like you just called out, you really got to be a generalist in this role.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely fun to play all the roles there. But yeah, that's awesome. So while you're also doing all of yeah, like you said, being a generalist and kind of doing all the roles, you're also kind of taking that CEO role as well as looking at the overviewing all the stuff that's going out, planning expansion, all that sort of stuff. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, and the expansion has been a big part of this year for sure.
Awesome. It's amazing. Well, now that we've kind of covered that as well, I want to go into something we've already been touching on, but how has AI been affecting your growth as a business and your growth strategy?
Yeah, we did touch on that a bit. So we've internalized a number of different aspects of Gen AI into
Yeah.
our strategic and creative workflows, and and then there's some back office stuff, but that's kind of that's the expected kind of
Right.
boring areas, I guess. But that's really what that's really what it's cut out for. Is that's where you're going to really see a lot of the efficiencies in that regard. But I think one of the things I guess I like that we've done is one of the one-on-one executive level workshops, but also starting to chart out and help those executives with that workshop understand our philosophy and approach to AI, where a lot of the bigger companies, when they jumped into AI, it was all about efficiencies. And, now we're, 10 months into the year, but earlier I think it was an MIT research paper that was stating that most of those companies that jumped in early based on efficiencies and probably got rid of some headcount and people, they didn't see the ROI that they were expecting. So a lot of that was, again, we mentioned the hype was way up here. So it's going to be impossible to actually meet expectations. But from the return on investment side of things, the one thing they missed, and it's understandable because of that hype, they took people out of the loop, and without humans in there interacting with AI, you're bound to have some problems, and that's the one thing we stress. It's not so much, efficiencies is a part of it, but you got to have humans in the loop, at all different phases of your workflow with AI to make sure that it's effective, and that should probably be the bigger KPI on this is how effective is your AI programs compared to how efficient it is.
Right. Yeah. You nailed it on the head there. I think I've said this in every podcast now, but you can't have artificial intelligence without human intelligence, or else it's almost meaningless. You need to have the human to kind of double check the work as well. But in some cases, AI is good to run on its own. But I would say in the next year, especially in your field in the creative space, you got to have the humans double checking the work for sure. Yeah,
hmm
that's amazing. Is there any other trends that's affecting the way you do business?
Um, I think it's still yet to be figured out and determined. But AI is there's the hype seems to be always be up here, but underneath the ebb and flow is it feels like it's a little bit of a title,
Yeah.
back and forth. And it seems now that, again, just my perspective, but a lot of companies, organizations are kind of maybe had enough of the hype, and they're saying, why don't we just? And there's a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace right now around business, so it feels like they're just maybe sitting on their hands and saying, let's wait and see where all this nets out. At least get through this year, and then see how to plot or plot a program forward that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. And in terms of your business, what's working well for you guys right now? What's kind of been frustrating you?
I, the uncertainty is definitely something that's been, I don't know if it's hurting us, but it's a challenge because so many companies just are like, yeah, this makes sense. We're just not ready to go yet, or they feel they need to get things figured out internally. Like I was we've had a couple clients who kind of put things on hold, but it was really interesting. This one I'll bring up. Uh, they they knew what they were starting to understand from one of these workshops what they didn't know. So they wanted to go out and get some sort of level of certification in AI, and I just kind of thought that was going to be like a blow off. But I just received an email the other day back from like, hey, I'm about ready to do my capstone project, and think this would be a great idea for a AI sandbox sprint, and so we're going to reconnect. So. Those challenges like ebb and flow, I think, is starting to come back the other way as we get closer to the end of the year. So hopefully that will continue.
Yeah. I was saying, what's been working well for you guys?
Um, oddly enough, with all the attention to AI, what's really kind of settled in is fundamentals of what we do, from strategic positioning of companies and brands, and this is what I think is interesting when we have the chance to talk to clients, that's more inclusive, not just a brand person, not just the business side of things, but have them facilitate conversations together. That starts to create a really solid foundation of really what the brand is about, what they're trying to achieve from a business standpoint, and how that impacts their clients and prospects, and how to approach them. So the whole idea of understanding that brand positioning, how that needs to be messaged across different personas and different buyers, that is still, I guess, a solid foundation for any company to build upon. And we're happy to help them in that regard because we think it's truly important. But that's the one consistent, even with all the swirl around AI and tech, that's still a solid base.
Right. I love it. Yes, that's amazing. And taking all that into account, what are your guys' goals for the next 6 to 12 months? What are you guys looking to achieve?
That's a really good question too. So we're looking to really we spent a lot of the summer kind of retooling a lot of our I guess our internal mechanisms and workflows, so to speak, to match up a little bit better with AI, but also to make us a little bit easier to work with. So we've taken every all the services within those four levers that I mentioned at the top. We've productized all of them, and now we have different tiers within those levers, but also bundled certain things that make sense to go, like AI and data definitely go together. AI data research, but then you can also take it across to one of the other levers with AI data research and maybe brand positioning, or into customer experience and looking at all the different touch points and the activities of a customer journey, and starting to work that through.
Right. Austin, what does that look like bigger picture for you? What kind of metrics are you looking to solve or improve?
Um, it's always revenue is always is always an area where we definitely
Right.
revenue, new business, but then also longevity of clients. And kind of creating this modular system where you can plug and play or go end to end across all four of those levers, but it starts to create a system, and a holistic system that we believe companies and organizations have a craving for. We've done a lot of research too, and seen the largest barrier for growth across organizations is the fragmentation between strategy and execution. And that's what this approach really pulls all of that together. So it de-silos a lot of different aspects of the company, and we facilitate those groups working together to solve the problems, create the workflows, and produce and distribute the work.
Awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned that you're looking to, yeah, again, improve those workflows, like you said, and automations like that. What does that look like for you specifically? What kind of workflows are you looking to implement to make you guys more efficient and more automated?
That's a really good question, and we're still working through some of the those those systems
Right.
right now. But it's I think on the individual um, levers, we're pretty good. It's in some of the bundling,
Yep.
working through those workflows to make sure that we're catching everything
Right.
that we think we should in that kind of inclusive environment of different aspects of the business and the brand.
Right. Awesome. And now, this is a bit of a fun question for you. Money aside, revenue aside, what's kind of been stopping you guys from implementing those solutions and getting to those goals right now?
Um, it sometimes it's just time,
Yeah.
and we purposely took our time over the summer to make sure that we were kind of pulling that together in what we believe to be a correct manner, and just sharpening the model that we had into this more of a understandable system. So it's not just so. I guess personally, I felt it came across a little bit too much on the agency side, and we want to make sure that it's not the soft side of agency and advertising and marketing, but it's hardcore business outcomes is what this really
Mhm.
drives and fuels. I mean, it's set up to really um, create a sense of confidence in this time of uncertainty where clients might just be second guessing themselves, but give them that confidence in the decisions they're making, help differentiate their business and their brand, and then follow right behind that with programs that help build momentum within their own system and sales.
Right. I love it. That's amazing. Now we've almost covered everything here today. There's one last thing I want to ask you before we go. What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned as your journey as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that you think has helped you become who you are today?
Yeah, that's a huge question, and to be honest, I couldn't limit it to just one. So I have three if that's all
Go
right.
for it. Yeah, let's hear
But
all of them.
the first one is never be afraid to fail. I think as an entrepreneur, number one, if you're stepping out to do that and start your own business, you've already you should be prepared. There's going to be failures, and that's okay.
Mhm.
It's going to happen, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you should be walking. If you're failing at something, you should at least be walking away with some learning to carry forward,
Right.
so that doesn't happen again, or just some cognitive understanding of okay, if this is happening, that's happening, watch out because the mix of those two things are probably not going to be good.
Right.
Um, Also, and conversely, you can see things that are really you can start to chart a way that's really going to be much more positive. The other thing is, and this is true of like any stage of my career, but it's always show up on time and bring a definite point of view when you're in
Mhm.
those meetings, whether it's internal meetings, client meetings, and no matter what stage of career that you're in, you've got to make sure that timely and have that definite point of view. And it might not be one that everyone agrees with, but as long as it's one that you can back up and provide rationale for,
Yep.
it's better to show that way than go like, oh, I don't know what everyone else thinks.
I like
And
it.
and then the last one is um, you you can't get there by yourself. And as soon as someone, I think people figure that out and they understand that it's okay to ask for help from peers or from colleagues or even manage up to ask for help. I think you got to be in a pretty good situation from an organizational culture to do that. But I've been fortunate and blessed. Most of the cultures I've been in were okay to manage up and ask for help. Actually, I remember the one time my boss told me it's better to raise your hand, raise that red flag before it goes any further because then it's going to be a lot harder for all of us to try and solve.
Awesome. Yeah, I like everything you said there. I definitely think it's important. I mean, honestly, if you're not failing and if you're not making mistakes in your business, I think you're doing something wrong. I
Yeah,
mean, you should be making mistakes, and I like that you said you need to be learning from those mistakes as well to become better, and it's just part of being an entrepreneur and part of being a human being as well. And yeah, you definitely need to have important or wise people around you to as mentors to help you learn and to like you said, ask questions to become a better person and a better entrepreneur. Awesome.
yep.
Doug, it's been amazing having you on the podcast today. I think you shared some amazing things. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we go?
Man, I But just on a side light, when you talked about having mentors,
Yeah.
it's been interesting for me because my first boss in advertising, back from Philadelphia, um, we reconnected. I guess more than a few years ago, but he is part of our consulting team at Next, and he's had
Wow.
an incredibly successful career across agencies, client side marketing, entrepreneur as a franchisee, and just a wealth of knowledge and experience to really rely on. So, when you find those types of connections, it's really good to maintain them, foster them, and just enjoy the time that you have with people.
Yep. And I love that. It's amazing. Your network is your net worth. It's so important to always to continue to build relationships and build your network as well. It's as a fellow podcaster as well. It's something that these are great for is to build your network and meet new people and build those professional connections that someday might later turn into a business partner or turn into an employee, someone like that. It's and will definitely help your career. Well, listen, Doug, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You provided some amazing insights into your business, into the industry, into AI in general, how you guys are using it. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks for the opportunity. I really loved taking some time to chat with you.
Of course.